Can't believe they put me on hold.
Hello.
Oh, hi. Look, it's Shaun does FM from AFC Auckland here. Look, I'm just wondering, can I get a definitive answer? Can we actually qualify for continental football next season in your confederation? Because every time we move up or down, it looks like we can't because there's no green line next to us on the table. Yet I can offer my players contracts where if we qualify, they get bonuses. So surely we should be qualifying. Do you have any idea how your qualification works for Oceania teams? Us in particular, because we're new.
Let me check.
Yeah, talk to your boss, no worries.
Can we ask perform이?
Hey Bob, can that Auckland team qualify? Just tell them we don't know. Alright.
We don't know yet.
You're not sure yet?
Sorry.
Okay, great. Yeah, if you could sort that out soon, because just 4 games left in the season, you know, we're up there.
We might try.
Okay.
Please leave a good review.
Yeah, I'll give a good review, don't worry. Okay.
감사합니다.
Cheers, thanks for your help.
Bye.
Bye. Useless.
There's a party in the streets and the city's on fire.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 9 of this New Zealand Builder Nation with both the All Whites and AFC Auckland here on Shaun Does FM. I hope you are doing well and coming up today. We played 2 of our last 4 games in the run home in the A-League. It's a do-over from the end of last week. Hopefully it goes the same way. First up, a bus trip before we take on Sydney FC at Allianz Stadium, and then our final home game of the season, our first home New Zealand derby, when we do take on the Wellington Phoenix, and also before then a recap of the most recent international window, and also we now have a better idea of how the OFC Nations Cups work. So if you're looking forward to all that coming up in today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But last episode we took on the Melbourne Victory and Macarthur FC in the A-League. Thankfully picked up good enough results to keep us in the title fight. If you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Since then have got through a little bit of football both with AFC Auckland and with the national team. First up, we will cover off the national team, just because then we can start to focus a bit more on AFC Auckland and our push for the A-League title. We played 2 games in the most recent international window, while the first round of the OFC Nations Cup took place, which we did not take part in. Those friendlies were against both Haiti and Comoros, and thankfully picked up 2 wins. The first one was against Haiti, a team ranked above us. That one at Waikato Stadium, the hometown of Chris Wood, and as you can see, he had a pretty good time there, albeit this game was a little bit sketchy. They did come back at us a few times. There's Chris Wood's profile, was actually looking there for the scoreline, but it was a very interesting game, this one. Haiti didn't do too much, but thankfully we found a way to win despite the fact that they nearly FM'd us. First up, Chris Wood opened the scoring just shy of the half-hour mark. We held that 1-0 lead for most of the game until Brian Alsea scored a goal with 15 minutes left, albeit right off the back of that, Chris Wood just said, "Okay, I'll carry you boys, I'll make it 2-1. Just past 80-minute mark, it was Pettit who scored a goal to make it 2-2. Then Chris Wood again said, "Okay, I'll score a hat-trick in front of my home crowd" in the 85th minute, and made sure that we did pick up a 3-2 win. So that was a good result for us against a team ranked higher than us on the international rankings. I think Haiti were around about the 80 to 90 mark. They were in a decent position on those rankings, certainly a good scout for us, with us at the time being ranked down in 100th. And off the back of that, a much easier game when we took on Comoros. These guys ranked around about 130th, so to be fair, quite good preparation for the type of teams that we might be taking on when we do get to that OFC Nations Cup. This one at Mount Smart, and this was a pretty comfortable 3-1 win. We did start a lot of players in this game who were only recommended for 45 minutes by their club teams. Because of that, quite a strong team for the first half, not quite so much for the second half, and it did mean not a lot happened in that second half, but 2 first half goals to Matty Garbutt, continuing to do a really good job for us wherever we put him in this New Zealand team. Tim Payne also grabbed one from centre back in the first minute of first half injury time. Off the back of that, Hadji went down the other end. He scored a goal, but thankfully, as I said, despite quite a few changes at half time, didn't hurt us too much, and we picked up a 3-1 win even gave Chris Wood a break for this game to make sure he was looked after off the back of his hat-trick heroics that he did against Haiti. So 2 more wins for us with the All Whites in that most recent international window. That means we've gone up ever so slightly on the world rankings, just inside of that top 100, now equal in 99th place. And we have had the fixtures come through for the second round of the OFC Nations Cup. This is hosted by both us and Australia, which is a little bit interesting because Australia not part of Oceania anymore, but the second round, here are what the groups do look like. We've been drawn alongside New Caledonia, the Solomon Islands, and Tahiti. On the other side of the draw in the other group, Fiji, PNG, Vanuatu, and Tonga. I think it's fair to say we've got the slightly stronger group. I think the Solomon Islands and Fiji probably our biggest threats, but still, this is a tournament that we should be winning. Those fixtures are coming up in June, so that's off the back of the end of the A-League season. I'll show you how the competition does work once we go back and have a look at the rules. You can see the teams that finish in the first 3 spots, they qualify for the World Cup qualification tournament, which is not the same as the actual OFC Nations Cup. So this tournament isn't actually our qualifying tournament for the World Cup. That happens once we get into late 2024, and it will finish in late 2025, even if we don't win that final, which we should be doing considering we're the big dogs in Oceania. We would then go to a World Cup playoff, kind of similar to what the All Whites usually end up in the way that the World Cup has been run previously before Oceania did get an automatic spot. But if we make our way through the top 2 in our group, we'll then make our way into a semi-final, then a final, and that's how the OFC Nations Cup works. So it could be an episode at the start of next week maybe where we play that final and also recap our transfer activity with AFC Auckland. There you can see it's quite a condensed tournament, so it might be an interesting episode at the start of next week, but that tournament is wrapped up before we get back into the second season with AFC Auckland, and at some stage during that there will be a bit of World Cup qualifying, albeit it should be pretty comfortable for us, you'd like to think, but still that could be a big game. Hopefully we don't blow it on the big occasion, but that's what's coming up for the All Whites. As I said, might cover a little bit of that off at the start of next week, and also we had a couple of easy games off the back of the 2 that we played in yesterday's episode with AFC Auckland against teams who are down and around in the relegation zone, and thankfully picked up wins in all 3 games. It is why we are still third on the A-League table. First up, a 1-0 win at home against Adelaide United. This one thanks to a very early Winston Reid header that did beat Joe Gauci at the near post. Yet again, he gets man of the match, albeit this time he actually had a bit of work to do and did help them keep that to only 1-0. But thankfully, decent result there against the team who are really struggling. They've got a new manager as well these days, have Adelaide United, but are in danger somewhat of going down to the second tier next season. We could have won this game more comfortably as well if Gwevin Tormine did not have a penalty go straight down the middle at the 35-minute mark, which Joe Gauci did save, which is probably why he's got that good rating and the player of the match. But certainly a game we could have won by more. That's kind of the theme of what's been going on since you were last here, because next up we then took on the Darwin Cyclones, and 2 penalties to Tormine this time. Thankfully, he put them away, meant that we won 2-0, 1 penalty in each half, but really should have found a way here to score some goals from open play, which is a little bit concerning, but thankfully got the job done there over the Cyclones. And off the back of that, we took on yet another new team in this A-League pyramid that we are using, the Redcliffe Waves, and this one was dodgy for a fair while, it's fair to say, actually. As you can tell there, Adama Koulibaly actually opened the scoring for the Redcliffe Waves and gave them a 1-0 lead. Thankfully, not too long off the back of that, Bruce Azumi made it 1-1, and Jack Henry Sinclair 2-1 going in to half-time. That was a scoreline for most of the game, but thankfully 2 late goals to Mohamed Hatarin and Hassan Jallo meant we picked up a pretty flattering 4-1 win. As you can see, stats-wise, the Redcliffe Waves offered a lot in this game so far. I think they look the best of the teams who are new alongside us, so it's surprising to see they are struggling the most of them on the league table, I believe, but that was a much closer game than the 4-1 scoreline would suggest. But thankfully, 9 points from those last 3 games, and that's important because the other 2 teams in the title fight, they have not slipped up either, so it does mean we're currently in 3rd spot. If we can pick up 2 wins in today's episode, which I'd like to think is possible, at least in terms of the Phoenix game Sydney. That could be a little bit tricky. It will make sure we are still right in the fight going into tomorrow's episode, our last two games, when we take on the Perth Glory. That should be very winnable. But our last game of the season is the Western Sydney Wanderers. That could potentially be a title decider, but we'll check on that come the end of today's episode and the start of tomorrow's one. So lots riding on our title hopes in today's episode, and also hopefully going to be able to find out if we can qualify for Asian football with this AFC Auckland team. The fact that we can give players contracts saying that if we qualify for an Asian tournament, we give them a bonus would suggest we can make them. But then we look at the rules, we're currently in third. That makes me wonder, so I'm not really too sure what the situation is still with AFC Auckland and Asian Confederation football, but hopefully we will find out come the end of tomorrow's episode or the start of next week. But first up today, Sydney FC. Of course, we played these guys last week in the same episode where we played our first New Zealand derby. Ufuk Talay still in charge, and we beat them at Mount Smart, and that was by a scoreline, if I can find it, of 3 goals to 2. The same margin that we beat the Phoenix by in that first New Zealand derby. But Sydney FC come to this one in some pretty good form. 3 wins and 2 draws from their last 5 games, and with this one being at Allianz Stadium, this does look like our trickiest game prior to that last one of the season when we do take on Western Sydney also over the ditch. But hopefully we can do the double and keep ourselves in a good position to try and mount a challenge for the A-League title in our inaugural season. Thankfully, no injury concerns as well going into today's episode, especially now we've got 2-week gaps in between each of our games. So hopefully those minor injuries won't be an issue at all throughout the course of the rest of the season. But coming into today's episode, we do have a suspension. It's a notable one. One of our starting centre-backs, Adam Mitchell, is suspended not just for the first game today, but it's a 2-match suspension. So it does mean he will also miss out on the New Zealand derby. So it does mean that Teo Atema will actually be our centre-back cover on the bench for today's episode. And Brock Bark does come up from our youth intake, the only youth intake player so far who has turned 16. So we can use him in the first team. So that is what our bench does look like going in to today's episode, with Stephen Havali's partnering Winston Reid at the back. But before we get stuck in to this first game of today's episode, time for a bus trip in Sydney as we make our way to Allianz Stadium. And first up, it's our hotel choice for this trip to Sydney. Don't want to stay too far away from the Allianz Stadium, which is in a suburb, I believe, called Waterloo. Probably quite big fans of the ABBA song, but we're going to stay at the 5-star Meriton Suites Waterloo. This looks like perfect for a team trying to get a nice relaxing time before we get stuck into a big game of football. There's a swimming pool. It looks really fancy. Some quite nice views of the motorway. Nice rooms, nice balconies. It looks pretty good for us for this trip, and it will be about a 10-minute drive, which is about 2.3 kilometres. Bit of a zigzaggy one as we make our way through Moore Park and to the Allianz Stadium. It's quite a big stadium, so it could be an interesting tour, this one, once we do get there. But to be fair, don't know how much will be on the way, but we're about to find out. And first up, we do start off outside of our hotel. To be fair, doesn't look that great from this angle, but no doubt inside it's a much better looking hotel, especially with swimming pools and stuff like that. But there's our starting point. We'll start to make our way down the M1 and towards Allianz Stadium. And I thought we might be able to stop on the way our first one as we make our way down this very concrete jungle motorway. On the right hand side is supposed to be the Moore Park Bat and Ball Oval. I presume that's a cricket venue based on it being Australia, but the concrete jungle's in the way, so no view of that. We'll keep on going here through the concrete jungle. And just as we're about to make a right hand turn, our first sign of anything that looks interesting, we're actually on our way here to Bondi Junction. The way we're going to Allianz Stadium, that's quite a famous part of Bondi Rescue and all those sort of TV shows. But going past here, a local pub, the Bat and Ball Hotel. We've definitely got a big cricket theme here on this trip so far. They have nice hot wings, Mondays from 5 PM, burgers from Tuesdays. Doesn't look like a bad spot actually, but there's the first sign of life really since we have been on this bus trip. But now time to go right and towards Allianz Stadium a bit more. once I don't get trapped under a bridge. And not too far off the back of that right turn at the Bat and Ball Hotel, a bit of a landmark here. It is Sydney Boys High School. There's some fella who clearly knew that Google Maps was going to take a picture on this day. He looks really enthusiastic about that, but there's Sydney Boys High School, the Boys High School in Sydney. Don't think it needs too much explaining. We'll keep on going towards the stadium, albeit the high school does have some quite nice facilities there by the looks of it, and basketball courts and probably some other stuff, but we'll keep making our way now towards the stadium. And now we've made our way past the high school, so there was a golf course, but I couldn't really get a good look at that. You can see this mustn't be too far away from the Sydney cricket ground either, but we are going towards the football stadium. Good to see the right term used there, not soccer, like can sometimes be the case in Australia. And in fact, we are going past the Sydney cricket ground, but before then, we've also got Disney Studios Australia, which doesn't look too great from this angle, but no doubt it's down a really big drive or something. There's probably the biggest sign of where it is, Fox Studios Australia. So that's interesting that we're going past there, but also that is the Sydney cricket ground, probably the second or third best cricket venue behind the MCG in Australia. You could argue the new Perth Stadium, the Optus Stadium, might be above it as well, but there is the SCG. That is one heck of a cricket ground, but we're going past that and towards Allianz Stadium. And as you can tell by the massive close-up just down the road, here we are at our ground for this big first game of today's episode, Allianz Stadium. I presume you go down here somewhere and you'll get to it. It might be down here somewhere. Ah, here we are, right. That's where we want to go. If we can get there, can we get there? Or is Google Maps going to be funny with us? I think Google Maps might block us from getting too close to the stadium, but as you can see, one of the biggest ones in the A-League, if not the biggest. We'll try and get a bit closer here and get a better view of the outside of the stadium. Now, I think this is the best view we can get of the outside slash entrance, especially while the gates are closed, but it's actually quite a good precinct, this one. You've got a stadium store, no doubt, where you can buy your AFC Auckland, or probably more likely your Sydney FC merch. On the other side here, there's the box office. Lots of flyers up, a couple of statues. Looks like that one is of a league player, I would say, albeit from that angle, a little bit hard to tell exactly what he is doing with his right arm there, but we'll just move on from that, zoom out a little bit more before things do get a bit interesting. There's another league player. That one is definitely a rugby league player, you can tell from the angle, and then you can see all the sponsorship, big screen out front of Allianz Stadium. Now let's get a look at the inside, and this is what the inside of Allianz Stadium does look like. As you can see, the person who took this had prime seats as well, front row, smack bang in the middle of the field. Not too sure really what this is being set up for, because can't see soccer goals, rugby posts, or anything. Maybe this is for a concert, but this is what Allianz Stadium does look like. As you can see, it is a big old meaty stadium, one of the bigger ones, I would dare say, if not the biggest in the A-League. So it's a big show for us today. Hopefully we can put one on and pick up 3 points against Sydney FC. And a quick look at the team sheets for this first game of today's episode. There are Sydney FC. They are going with a 4-2-3-1. It does look like they have picked a pretty strong lineup. As I said before, we have got Havelis at centre back alongside Reid with that suspension to Mitchell. Also Marinovic, still as goalkeeper, has been doing a pretty good job ever since Scott Basilage had a minor injury, so we're not dropping him until he is a shocker, and hopefully we can pick up 3 points here, keep ourselves in the title race against the Sky Blues. Albeit a very early highlight here in this game, and it is a corner here to Sydney FC. Havelis will head that one away, but Mac is back on the ball here for the home team. Now Gabriel Lasurde plays that one back to Grant, just takes his time here on the ball, thankfully putting a decent press on him. I think that's Tormain, and it goes back to the Wiggle and Andrew Redmayne, but now Caceres will find King in a bit of space here down that left-hand side. We'll square that one. It gets blocked by Havelis, goes back out to Joel King, who will beat Marinovic. It's a dreadful start. We go 1-0 down here early at the Allianz Stadium, and this is not the start we wanted in a big game, which if we lose, could put us in danger of losing our hopes of picking up the A-League title, but that's a bit of an unfortunate goal to concede with that tackle from Havelis. Fell rather kindly to King, but he does put it away, definitely onside, and we go 1-0 down early. And another corner here for Sydney FC just past the 15-minute mark. This time Marinovic will come out and claim that one after getting beaten early, albeit a little bit of an unlucky goal to concede, as you saw. Havali's there did try and break things up, did just look like it caught us out, that goal by King, but he pumps that one deep. We don't quite win that one in the midfield. Rodwell plays that one up to Lolly. Yes, that is the Rodwell formerly of English football. They try and float that one into the mixer. We do deal with it, but now Breton, he is on the ball. Now Grant plays that one forward to Mac. Does his man there down the right-hand side, floats that one into the mixer. Thankfully, Elliott can hit it away, albeit not very good direction. Lolly plays that one into King. Sinclair brings him down. A little bit far away for me to tell here on the screen. I think that's not a penalty. Looked to me like it might be just outside the box. Albeit, what do I know? Sydney FC, they always get the decisions to go their way, and they've got a penalty. This could be a bad day at the office. Mac here with the penalty, but Stefan Marinovic goes the right way and makes a massive save. Hopefully that might be a turning point in this game so far, well and truly on the back foot. We'll see if we can deal with this corner. We just do. Marinovic there with a good save. Good couple of minutes from him to keep it at only 1-0. And shortly off the back of that, we now have a free kick to Havali's, but that is a big penalty save, bit of justice there potentially. As I said, didn't think that one was inside the box, albeit editing Shaun might prove me wrong, but that's actually quite poor there. And now Bratton gets the ball back for Sydney FC. Mac tries to play that one back to Grant. Now it's Rodwell, sprays that out left to King, and now Lolly squares that for Caceres. Good chance there, thankfully, just wide, but Sydney FC well on top, but thankfully we're only 1-0 behind, and now a free kick in our favour just shy of the half-hour mark. Havali's to kneel. Now Oxborough starts to make his way forward, just turns there, and we go back to our centre-backs. Valiers, nice ball out here for Sinclair. Thankfully, that penalty did get saved that he gave away. He squares it for Stefan Malcolm with our first real attack of this game. We make it 1-1. Was just about to demand more. Now we'll encourage. That is a big goal, especially off the back of that prior penalty save and also the save from that corner. But Sinclair, good work there. Looks like he nutmegs a man. And Stefan Malk, good finish to beat Redmayne. 1-1, just shy of the half-hour mark. Albeit just past that, now it's a corner back down the other end for Sydney FC. Thankfully, Havales will deal with that, but then it does fall to Courtney Perkins. Lots going on there inside the inner box, but thankfully a miss there from Sydney FC. As you can tell by the stats, they really should be winning this game, but thankfully somehow it's locked up at 1-1. And that was it for the first half. Absolute dominance there from Sydney FC, but thankfully big turning point there with that penalty save from Marinovic on the effort from Mark. And not too long off the back of that, we go down the other end, and Jack Henry Sinclair, who gives away the penalty, squares one nicely for Malk, and with that only shot on target, we make it 1-1. Sydney FC, though, stats-wise, as you could see, well on top. Everyone out there on okay ratings, so no changes going into the second half. We'll give them a bit of a rev up, though, because that was pretty poor, and hopefully find a way to steal this one. We'll get the second half underway, locked up at 1-1. And just shy of the hour mark, we eventually get the first highlight here of the second half. A bit quieter so far than that first one. It does look like the first highlight here might be in our favour. Malk plays that one forward to Sinclair, who got the assist for that first goal, and plays that one through nicely to Bazookas, who will chip the goalkeeper somewhat. Top right corner. That might be only our second shot on target in this game. A clinical counter-attack, as the commentary says. And we are 2-1 up, and I'm not really too sure how. This might be the payback from when we got FM'd by the Brisbane Roar, but Bazookas here, that is a really good finish. Sinclair with 2 assists. Quite good work from him after giving away that penalty, which thankfully Marinovic did save, albeit we won't just count our chickens yet, because Sydney FC do have a highlight from the restart, and the way FM works sometimes, they might want to get some justice in this game, because Sydney FC have definitely been the better team, but thankfully somehow have only scored the 1 goal. They hold the ball here down their right-hand side, square that one now for Patrick Wood, who's been a really good striker for them this season. Someone I do have my eye on. And now Lolly, he gets well and truly in behind. Big chance, but another great save there from Stefan Marinovic. That is why we have not been able to bring Scott Basilage back into the starting lineup. Marinovic has just been too good, actually. On form, could be quite close to an all-whites recall, but thankfully there, a shot that goes wide, not tested, and somehow we are 2-1 in front, despite those stats absolutely favouring Sydney FC, but Michael Neal is down to a 6.4 first sub, Nathan Lobo, can come on for him as we look to hold on to this 2-1 lead. And just about to make our way now into the last 20 minutes of this game, and a couple more players are on some average ratings. So Cullen Elliott on a 6.4, Stefan Negro for him, also Havali's 6.4. We'll see what Teo Atema can do as a centre-back. And also, we do have Gubin Tormin going fairly on a 6.5. So we might bring on Ahataran in his place for these last 20 minutes, give him a rest while he's not performing well, and hopefully continue to hold on to the surprising 1-goal advantage. And just about to make our way into the last 10 minutes of this game, and now Nick Sullivan's dropped down to red hut, so our last sub, Louis Toomey, the Oceania footballer of 2023, will come on for him, as we're still 2-1 in front and probably not too far away from starting to time waste, and indeed, I think I'm about to do that as we enter the last 10 minutes. And just in the last 5 minutes of this game now, and thankfully Sydney FC have not been up to too much in the second half, and late on there's a throw-in here in our favour, albeit Stefan Malk is actually not on the field, so it looks like here we are playing with 10 men for the moment. Poor pass there from Negro, looking for Sinclair with those 2 assists, so it does mean that Sydney FC have the ball. Thankfully Malk is making his way back onto the field, so hopefully we'll be nice and solid now defensively, even though he is a central attacking midfielder. But Sydney FC here will look to level things up late. Nice ball there for Patrick Wood. It goes wide, but thankfully even then he was offside. 4 minutes of added time and a late corner here to the Sky Blues. Lolly puts that one in for Gabriel there, but thankfully I think Marinovic with a save, and then Reed with a clearance. We cling on, and somehow FM Sydney FC, big penalty save early, as I said in the first half, by Stefan Marinovic off the back of that early goal to Joel King. Then we go down the other end. Sinclair sets up Malk. Then early in the second half, he sets up Bazookas, and we cling on for a 2-1 win. Marinovic, superb in goal with an 8.5, but the big turning point was that save from Marinovic from that penalty on the 20-minute mark. They were absolutely dominant, as you saw there, through that match momentum, but somehow we keep our title hopes alive with that 2-1 win at Allianz Stadium. Not a great performance yet again. Hopefully we're a bit better when we come back for the derby and we take on the Wellington Phoenix. And here are the team sheets for the second New Zealand derby of the season, and also our last home game here with AFC Auckland. We're exactly the same as we were for that previous game, albeit both Winston Reid and Sullivan coming to this one on orange injuries and risking them with the 2-week gap in between games. And also, we need to win this, I think, to keep our title hopes alive. Wellington Phoenix, with quite a young-looking lineup these days, well and truly away from any relegation danger. So hopefully, we can beat them the first time we play them since Alex Paulson signed for us and keep ourselves in that title fight. And just shove the 10-minute mark, first highlight here yet again is a corner to the opposition. Thankfully, Sullivan will head that one away. So far, only thing that's happened, Michael Neal at left back has picked up a yellow card. They try and fizz that one into the mix, but thankfully Winston Reid will block that, and chance for us here to do something on the counter-attack. Nice ball there from Malk, for Bazookas, passes that one nicely to Gubin Tormin, who beats the soon-to-be AFC Auckland goalkeeper in Alex Paulson. That is a clinical counter-attack. Yet again there it pops up exactly the same time as I say it, and that gives us a 1-0 lead. Nice and early. To be fair, the Phoenix, definitely a team we should be beating at home based on table position, but that is a very good counter-attack, and Tormin with a lovely finish to give us an early 1-0 lead. And now about halfway through the first half for our next highlight, still 1-0 up, and a short goal kick taken there from Marinovic off the back of that superb performance 2 weeks ago in game against Sydney FC. Definitely the main reason we picked up 3 points or even a point in that game, and we keep the ball there, albeit a good tackle there, and the Phoenix do get that one back. Just seeing here who lost that ball, it was Sinclair. Of course, quite a few former Phoenix players in our team, which does make this interesting, in the likes of Marinovic and Callum Elliott, amongst some others. But Edwards fizzes that one into the mix, but thankfully again Winston Reid with a good block. But Lucas Kelly-Hill, one of the All Whites, gets that ball back for Wellington Phoenix, and now Sloan Rodriguez plays that one in to Manuel, puts it in for David Ball, who heads that one home. Jackson Manuel, quite a promising player, just came back from loan not too long ago, and the Phoenix are using him, but he heads that one home, does David Ball, the Englishman, and makes it 1-1. And unfortunately, despite the fact we've been quite good in this game so far, albeit it's been a little bit even stats-wise, the Phoenix They hit us there, nothing Marinovic can do, as it is Tormeen who gets out-jumped by the Englishman, and it's locked up at 1-1 in the derby. And just about to make our way now into the last 10 minutes of this first half, and the Phoenix there, we're looking to do something somewhat on the counter-attack, but thankfully we do win that ball back with our defenders, and now look to do something ourselves and hopefully grab our lead back, which we did get early through Gweveen Tormeen. Now Havali is on the ball, Winston Reid finds his centre-back partner Neil, will play that one forward. Thankfully picks out Malk, and now a chance for us here to do something through Callan Elliott, often a source of our attack. Just looks to size his man up here down this right-hand side. Finds Sinclair. He gets taken out, but it falls to Stefan Malk. He will score his 9th goal of the season, and we are back in front here 2-1. 10 minutes shy of half-time. This is already threatening to be quite similar to the first time that we played these guys. It was a thriller. We scored 2 late goals to pick up a 3-2, and I think that Cully healed. That would have been a penalty if Malk didn't put that one home, but thankfully didn't have to worry about that. Malk makes it 2-1, AFC Auckland, and in fact, right off the back of that, there is a highlight, but it is down the other end. Hopefully, we can keep the ball and might get a chance to make it 3-1 at halftime. Good pass to Bazookas, good touch as well to get around the defender. He makes his way edge of the box. Tormeen with a header, but unfortunately, that one goes just wide. Good chance, but it's still at 2-1. And it looks like that will do it for the first half. So lots of action in that first half and often quite good goal scoring opportunities. Thankfully, early goal to us through Tormeen and a late one to Stefan Malk does mean we're ahead 2-1 after that header about halfway through the half to David Ball. We're going to make one change at halftime. Michael Neal on that yellow card and a 6.4. Bit of a concern to Nathan Lobo can come on for him, but otherwise pretty happy with how this one's going. Hopefully we can kick on, make it 2 wins over the Phoenix this season and keep ourselves in that title fight. And a pretty early highlight here in the second half. As you can see, the Phoenix made quite a few changes there at half-time, and it won't make a difference because Nick Sullivan there on the rebound off the back of the initial save from Paulson off that far post header will bundle that one home the defence. Not doing a very good job there to protect the soon-to-be AFC Auckland goalkeeper. At least that's what I'll say, but that's a good little finish there from Sullivan at the second time of asking. Just chips that over Paulson lying on the ground. We make it 3-1, nice and early in the second half, and hopefully we might be able to grab one more goal. Then we could take off some players like Winston Reid and Nick Sullivan. A little bit iffy coming in to this one. The Wellington Phoenix there try and do something, but thankfully our defenders can tidy things up, albeit that's not a great ball there from whoever that was. And now the Phoenix go down the other end, but thankfully Elliott gets a hit on that. It does go back to Marinovic today, having an okay game, not quite as good as he was against Sydney, albeit hasn't had nearly as much to do against the Phoenix. Now Callan Elliott makes his way forward down that right-hand side, picks out Stefan Malk, already has a goal today, just cuts inside. Now he picks out Oxborough. He finds himself in some space, picks out Jack Henry Sinclair. That shot takes a wicked deflection and beats Alex Paulson. Not really great from him now, conceding 4 goals. Hopefully he'll be better next season when he's wearing blue and white or whatever our goalkeepers wear, but thankfully looks like we should pick up a win in the second derby of the save. Jack Henry Sinclair, who's just picked up a yellow card, will make it 4-1, and now might be a good time for us here to make a couple of subs. As I said, Winston Reid and Nick Sullivan, bit of an injury concern coming into this game, so a tamer, he can come on for Winston Reid, and I think it will be Louis Toomey to come on for Nick Sullivan as play as that defensive midfielder, and also we might bring on a Hitaran for Sinclair, seeing as he's picked up a yellow card, so bringing the changes off the back of taking a 4-1 lead. And not too long off the back of all those changes, now we've got a goal kick here on the hour mark. We take it short. Havaliers plays that forward to Elliott, but hopefully, even though there's a half hour left here, we can hold on, albeit a bit loose there from Elliott, and the Phoenix do win the ball fairly high up the field. Nguyen is on the ball here for the Phoenix, quite a promising player. They've got lots of those in this team today. They float that one far post. Marinovic that time with a pretty average effort in goal. He tries to parry that one away, comes off the post. It falls to McDonald. Doesn't have a farm, but he's got a goal here at Mount Smart Stadium. Pretty sure he was onside. That was a bit average from Marinovic, and also our defenders not dealing with the danger there at that far post. Sloan Rodriguez floats that one in for Van Hudden, and Marinovic doesn't quite get to that before the post. It falls to McDonald, grabs a goal, and it's now 4-2. And shortly off the back of that goal to the Phoenix, now it's a free kick here for Van Hatemi. Tries to put that one top right corner. I think it came off the woodwork, a goal kick. They're starting to get some momentum off the back of those changes, which we did make, but thankfully we're still in front 4-2. And just making our way now into the last 15 minutes of this game, so it's been a little while since the Phoenix had those back-to-back highlights. Hopefully we can hold on to this 2-goal advantage and maybe even make it 5-2 when we do have a highlight here. We eventually get the ball out to Lobo down that left-hand side. Poor pass there though, looking for Tormean, but thankfully the Phoenix poor in clearing that. Straight out to Tewa Tamer, definitely a good player, pivot centre back with the ball at his feet, usually being a defensive midfielder, but definitely with his height can do a job at the back for us like he's doing in today's episode without Adam Mitchell. Thankfully, looks like we're going to get by fine without him, but now Callan Elliott makes his way down the right-hand side. We'll square that one, and Stefan Malk will pick up a double. Callan Elliott doing a really good job here against his former club. Yet again, 5-2, and that will definitely put this game to bed. 2 derby wins in our first season here at AFC Auckland. Callan Elliott has been sneakily one of our best players of the season here, but to be fair, Tormean, going to be hard to knock him off for that player of the season when we do make our way forward to the end of season review, but that makes it 5-2. Not ideal for Alex Paulson, honestly, but hopefully our defence at AFC Auckland a bit better and he can concede less goals next season. But now a chance here for the Phoenix to grab one back. Van Hattem looking dangerous down that right-hand side. That's a bit average again there from Marinovic in goal. The woodwork again beats him. And McDonald, he's got 2 goals. Yeah, that was a bit average, I think, in terms of defence, but thankfully it should not cost us. Van Hattem floats this one into the mixer. Does take a big deflection, but still, that's not great from Marinovic. So because of that, might look to send a message here and actually give Basilage some real game time ever since he's had that minor injury. And since then, Marinovic has had that starting spot on lockdown. So we're going to bring him on here, the goalkeeper, with our final sub. Also, start the time waste just to make sure we don't bottle this. Now that it's 5-3. And we've got 5 minutes of added time to get through here in this one, but no highlights since that goal to McDonald, that second one. And we started the time waste since bringing on Scott Basilage. And thankfully, we pick up a win in our final home game of the season. It will definitely keep us in that title race. 5-3 over the Wellington Phoenix. We win both halves, albeit the Phoenix did look dangerous at times. First half goal to David Ball, and also that double in the second half to McDonald, but thankfully in and around that, we did look pretty good. It's definitely one of our best displays in terms of attack for quite a while, and stats-wise, even game. You could argue XG-wise that the Phoenix could have got something out of that game, but thankfully we were quite clinical with our lower tempo. We pick up a 5-3 win, and we'll see what's happened in some of those other games later on involving Western Sydney Wanderers and Central Coast Mariners. They picked up wins on that first match week when we beat Sydney FC. Not too sure yet if they'll do it after we beat the Phoenix, but for now, we're on top of the A-League with 2 games left in the season. So 2 good results for us there in today's episode. Very fortunate with that 2-1 win over Sydney FC, definitely making up that prior loss to the Brisbane Roar, and then quite an even game, but thankfully come away with a 5-3 win over the Wellington Phoenix, the best New Zealand team in the league already. We are here at AFC Auckland, and we are now in second on the A-League. That is because, surprisingly, the Western Sydney Wanderers got beaten by the Redcliffe Waves, the bottom of the league team, albeit, as I said earlier, they did look the best when we've taken them on, at least in terms of stats, and they've been giving us something to think about with their attack. But that is a surprising loss, which does mean the Central Coast Mariners, off the back of a 4-2 win over Adelaide, are top of the table by 2 points. But we do have goal differential over them, albeit only ever so slightly. So if we win our final 2 games and they slip up in 1, there is a chance that we could lift the A-League title in our first season of the save, which would be a lot sooner than I was expecting. We could be quite a dominant force here once we do get some quite promising players to join us at AFC Auckland instead of a couple of average journeymen who were just good for squad registration purposes. But I think that will do it for today's episode, keeping ourselves well and truly in a title race here at AFC Auckland. Only 2 points behind the Mariners with 2 games left in the season, and we are 6 points clear of Melbourne City. So in theory, we should get Asian football in some capacity next season, but we'll see if that happens or not. But if you enjoyed those 2 wins in today's episode over Sydney FC and over the Phoenix, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. You want to make sure you come back tomorrow. We'll play our last 2 games of the season and see if we can lift the A-League title in our first season of the save. We take on the Perth Glory. That should be winnable, even though that is away from home. Might do a bus trip before that game. Don't think we'll do one before the second one though, because we don't want to do too many bus trips with an episode with quite a bit riding on it. We'll take on the Western Sydney Wanderers in a game which could be crucial to our title hopes, but we do need to keep an eye out on the Central Coast Mariners. They play in their last 2 games, Redcliffe and the Wellington Phoenix. That should be pretty winnable for them. Might be hard for us to catch them up, but hopefully one of those 2 teams can do us a favour. And as well as that, they've actually got the Asian Confederation Cup final, which could just distract them a little bit over there in Gosford, but fair to say we need some help from Redcliffe or the Phoenix, which is unlikely, but hopefully we can win our 2 games and see if that will take us to the A-League title in tomorrow's episode. So until then, thank you very much for watching, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.